Okay. Sadhu, sadhu, sadhu. Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Buddhang saranang gacchami. Dhammang saranang gacchami. Sanghang saranang gacchami. Dutiyampi buddhang saranang gacchami. Dutiyampi dhammang saranang gacchami. Dutiyampi sanghang saranang gacchami. Tatiyampi buddhang saranang gacchami. Tatiyampi dhammang saranang gacchami. Tatiyampi sanghang saranang gacchami. Panatipata veramani sikkhapadang samadhiyami. Adinnādāna veramani sikkhapadang samadhiyami. Kāmesu mecchāchāra veramani sikkhapadang samadhiyami. Musāvāda veramani sikkhapadang samadhiyami. Surameraya majjapama dattana veramani sikkhapadang samadhiyami. Sadhu, sadhu, sadhu. Okay, now let us do a short sitting on the breath meditation, also to mark the end of the year, or rather as we approach the end of the year, to do so in peace and welcome the new year in peace, in joy. Just breathe like a baby, normal, relaxed breathing. It is something like renouncing the breath, letting go of the breath. Although we let go of the breath, it's still there. It's just a matter of refining the breath. We're letting go of the physical aspects of the breath. We are turning to the mental aspects of the breath. And if you are very good, in due course, you even go beyond that. And it's really very deep peace. So breathe. Just let your breath take care of itself. This is nature in harmony. Your inner nature and the outer nature, if you like, synchronizing, becoming peaceful, like water finding its own level. In stage one, we count the breaths. In, out, one, smile. In, out, two, smile. In, out, three, smile. In, out, four, smile. In, out, five, smile. In, count 1 to 5, 1 to 5. You can stop at 5, or you can go on to count up to 10. 1 to 10, 1 to 10. Don't go beyond 10, it's too big. Don't go below 5, it's too small, too short. At any time, if you forget the number or you overcount or make any mistakes, just go back to number 1. Don't think about it. The whole idea is not to think about it, to just let go of the thoughts. The counting is to prevent us from wandering, the mind from wandering. Smiling is to smoothen everything. So just sit very calmly, very peacefully, like a cloud, happily floating in the sky. You are this lonely, round white cloud, happily floating in the clear blue sky. And when you are sitting on your own, you can go on counting as long as you like. That is until you are totally focused. Once you become more focused, you will know that you don't need the counting anymore. The counting becomes a little bit distracting, a little bit kind of heavy, if you like. So you know you don't need it anymore because it has served its purpose. And then you switch to the second stage. For some other people, you may not like counting, or you may feel counting is not helpful. This is quite normal. About half the number of people who in a group usually will find the counting is not necessary or doesn't work for them. So you can go straight into the second stage. For those of you who find counting helpful, you can go back to it anytime you feel distracted. Just go back to it to realign, to refocus your mind. Or just smile. Just smile at the mind, smile at the distractions, and go back to the breath. The breath is your safe space, safe spot of peace. In, out, counting. Now in the second stage, we don't need to count anymore, no more counting. Just watch the in breath, out breath. Usually we watch the end of the breath, in and then note it, smile, out and then note the ending, out breath, smile. Some people drag the counting, for example, this in, like that. So it depends on which helps you to focus more. Use that method. There are a few people also who are aware of the start of the breath. So they say in and then they breathe in, then out, they breathe out. So this is your personality. Just use whichever helps to help you focus. Relax breathing. Don't force your breath. Just natural breathing. Sometimes your body will take a deep breath. Just follow it. Breathe out. Sometimes it becomes shallow, very restful. In, out, smile. In, out, smile. This is the second stage. When you do this properly, meaning you let go of the breath, you will notice your breath flowing down. In other words, you need less oxygen. You are burning less. You're more relaxed, more at peace. You will notice there are the spaces in between your breaths growing longer. They're not necessarily regular, but they grow longer. This will come naturally. Wait for it. Don't make it happen, because you will make it happen. That is thinking, and you won't get the focus. So just relax. Watch the breath when it slows down. And smile at the space. Then you have in, space, out, space. This is the third stage. Space. The keyword is space or spaces. You can smile anytime. Feel that joy. Again, should there be any distractions by way of feelings or thoughts, just smile at them, let them go, and go back to the breath. If that doesn't work, then label the distractions accordingly. Feeling, pain, or thinking. Here you're focusing on the word just to help you let go of it. And go back to the breath. In space, out space. And smile. Last stage, the fourth stage, is the most beautiful and also the most difficult. In fact, stages 3 and 4 are the results of stage 1 and 2. You have to wait for stage 3 to arise, and stage 4 will follow naturally. Stage 4 is when you notice everything is so peaceful. Even to say, even to, just note in, out is distracting. It's like talking already in your mind, because you're so peaceful. You just are happy to be still and quiet. So in stage 4, it's called silence. We silently watch the breath, like we are hidden in a tree at night, watching some strange forest animals coming out. They're very shy. So we watch very quietly. We can see them from our treetop height. So We watch the breath in this fourth stage peacefully. We feel the peace. Smile at it if necessary. The moment you notice any hint of any thought or distraction, just smile at it. You can also gently say, peaceful, peaceful, to help your mind focus when needed. Now, if you have difficulties, especially as a beginner, try to vary your meditation. In other words, switch to another simple meditation. For example, you can watch your chest rising when you breathe in, and then the chest falling when you breathe out. As you watch the rising and falling of your chest, feel the impermanence. Note the impermanence. And it's a good practice, perception of impermanence. And then you feel peaceful. No need to do anything. Just feel the peace and smile if you like. So this is how you vary your meditation to make it more interesting, and you can sit longer. And in the end, you are focused. You don't have to do anything. Now at this point, please review your practice. Review your practice. Remember the peaceful moments, joyful moments, the good parts. Remember them. This is your good karma, good mental karma. They will help you in your future meditations. They will inspire you to meditate better. Or just remembering them brings you happiness. So use this for feeling happiness. And you're not meditating in your daily life when you're facing difficult situations, for example. Also, if you notice any difficulties, distractions, note them, and then maybe work on the strategy, find out what happened, how to overcome them. Right? You can make notes during your review period. And question them if you like. Ask. You can ask during this session. Review your practice. Here I'm just keeping it short on your own. Take as much time as you need to review. Now, before we end this sitting, we do what's called just sitting for a short while. We begin our meditation slowly, gently. We end our meditation also slowly, gently. Open your eyes. Sadhu, sadhu, sadhu. Okay, now let us begin with our class. Right. Okay, first of all, happy holidays to everyone, and the New Year is coming, so it's a great way to bid goodbye to the old year. You know, I remember before 2020 came, we were all so excited, and now it's 2021, 2022 is coming. Time flies, no? Right? So question is, what do we spend with our time? I'm so happy we spent the last whole year studying the mind, okay, and also suttas. And here we are, number 12. Every month there's one lesson, so this is the 12th lesson. So on consciousness, this is a really amazing topic. It's cutting edge, actually. Even, you know, this modern psychology, they're still finding out what's going on. And in January, there's a group of doctors and doctors to be in the medical faculty of the NUS. They invited me for a kind of dialogue. They're going to question me all the kind of things about consciousness and mindfulness from the Buddhist point of view. So there is this interesting interest between the medical science, psychology, and early Buddhist teachings on consciousness, right? So it's something amazing, because the Buddha, through his meditation, directly experienced all these things, and then he looked at them carefully and then prepared. Actually, it's very natural for him, the way he talked, you know, depending on the audience. So if the audience are very intelligent, they got very good focus, he gives deeper teachings. Otherwise, he will use analogies and stories. So here we have this, what I'm presenting to you here, based on what teachings the Buddha has given us. So let us kind of one more time have a review of what we have studied so far on where is consciousness located. What does consciousness do? So here we have this so-called eclipse mind diagrams, just a word to remember. Eclipse, because you see two circles, you know, going over each other with the umbra, penumbra, and so on. So, and then there are lots of numbers. Don't read these numbers now, don't bother with them. This is for you when you look at the diagrams during your study, to look up the various references, okay? There are lots of references in that tables and so on here. Okay, so we know we have a body, right? This is obvious. That's how we find out things in Buddhism. We have a body. Our body are, of course, the 5 physical senses, eye, ear, nose, tongue, body, okay? Of course, in early Buddhist psychology, we don't just see them as senses, we see them as conscious doors of consciousness, if you like. They consist of 5 sense consciousnesses. So in other words, the body is also conscious. We call that, for convenience, cognitive consciousness. If you like, body consciousness, learning consciousness. So this is the general term. We use the general term consciousness, viññāṇa. Okay, so the body is a conscious body. In other words, it overlaps with the mind. It works with the mind, because if there's no mind, the body is dead and there's nothing much to talk about anymore. So we have the mind. The next thing is the mind knows. That is the body. Right? I remember I began my first lesson mentioning this. Now, it's not just the mind. we know also in our later lessons, even right now, as you're listening to me, there's this mind privately in your head. We say in your head, but it's just a way of talking. You are thinking, what shall I do, and so on and so forth, okay? At this moment, of course, the good thing is your mind is probably very likely filled with charity, filled with loving kindness and wisdom, because you are listening, you are learning, okay? But once we go out into the world, the average person, you know, they are filled with greed, hate, delusion. One of the things I dread about holidays, especially here we are living in this tower of apartments, and you can hear neighbors. So some neighbors, the whole place is very peaceful during working days, but during holidays they come back home and they start quarreling, start shouting and so on, and you can hear all that because of greed, hate, delusion, right? So a lot of people have this greed, hate, delusion behind their minds, if you like, behind the face, the mask that we wear in society. So this is called the preconscious, because greed, hate, delusion is there guiding us. Buy this, buy that, do this, say that, and so on, okay? So it's either greed tells us, oh, this is nice. Hate says, no, I don't like this person. Or delusion says, oh, I don't know what's going on, you know, and then you do the wrong things. So this is just below the public face, the conscious level, so to speak, yeah? What other people are conscious of you and you yourself are conscious of. You might not even know this is happening on the preconscious level, but you can know it. So if you know it, you are mindful, and that helps you to say, oops, I have this greed, I'm going to remove it. I have this hate, I'm going to remove it with loving kindness. I have this illusion, I need to overcome it with wisdom. Right, so we call that cognitive consciousness, the will. So you can, like, you know, put in effort and say, I'm going to change this. So this is on the preconscious level, all right? You think before you act, and you make it a conscious effort. And this is mentioned in some detail in the Ambalatika Rahulawada Sutta, for example. Right, so we call this citta. Citta is that part of the mind that can be trained and developed. Now then there is another part of the mind called the mind consciousness element. And this is the part, this is one of the 18 elements, is in fact, I think the last of the 18 elements. The 18 elements are the 6 sense faculties, your sense organs, if you like, eye, ear, nose, tongue, body, and mind. And then the 6 sense objects, they are respective objects. That's 12. So sometimes they're called the 12 senses. But 18, you have the 6 consciousnesses: eye consciousness, ear consciousness, nose consciousness, and so on. So 18, they are called elements, 18 elements, okay? So this is the last one, mind conscious element. And this is interesting. We're going to talk more about, we're going to see more about this a little later. This is the part of the mind that investigates. When you see, hear, sense something, it investigates, and then it determines, and then it registers, and then you experience what's going on. It's something like perception, if you like. A simple word would be perception, but perception is only one word. So here, this is Abhidharma. This Abhidharma people, they kind of lay it out in a very interesting, very detailed sequence of events. So we can simply take it as perception. We'll come to this in more detail in a while. And then you have this very important part of us. Notice it's like a core in the middle here, between body and mind. And these are the latent tendencies, anusaya in Pali. They are the raw, dark energies, greed, hatred, delusion, and the raw, dark root form as lust, aversion, and ignorance. They are there all the time from past life. We inherit from our past lives and present habits and conditioning. They are there, we don't even know it. So we call this the unconscious, okay? So here again, you have the reference at the bottom. For more detail, look up this volume. So this is the latent tendencies. They're there, you don't even know it. And in a sense, this is what is reborn, okay? So here you have this Gandhava, or what is this being that is reborn, rebirth consciousness. It's got many names, this Gandhava, rebirth consciousness, and so on. Okay, Gandhava is Sanskrit, and I take it as English. It's anglicized. Pali is Gandhabba. Okay, Gandhabba. So it's one kind of deva also, but here is a term we use for rebirth consciousness, that which is reborn. We can also call this the subconscious, and this is called existential consciousness. I call this existential consciousness in contrast to the other one, cognitive, right? So you have three kinds of consciousness: cognitive consciousness, existential consciousness. They're all here. So this is the one that continues, prolongs our existence, what is reborn, existential consciousness. So there you are. I've summarized very briefly, very quickly, the nature of consciousness according to early Buddhism. All right, so here, this one is called Mano, by the way. This what is reborn. It's another. So you notice there are three terms there: Chitta, Mano, Viññāṇa. And sometimes the Buddha used all these three as synonyms. They all refer to the mind. Okay, so you can see how difficult the language of the mind can be. You cannot be too technical with them, in other words. Okay, so let's look at the two big terms: cognitive consciousness and existential consciousness. Don't try to compare this. I mean, you can compare with modern psychological terms if you like, but don't bring them in. Okay? Then you can be very confused. If you measure modern psychological terms, they're used in different ways. Okay? So take the Buddhist ideas as they are. It's easier to compare after that. So the first thing to know is there is this what is the basic conscious process that goes on in our mind? It follows the principle of dependent arising, cause effect. The effect becomes causes. It goes like that, and then it goes round and round. Okay, causality, conditionality. In fact, conditionality is a better word, and they depend on each other. So we can conveniently see these mental processes under two categories: cognitive consciousness, and which is what we're experiencing right now. You are listening to me, you understand what I'm knowing, what you know, and what I know, I'm sharing it with you, and you're beginning to understand it, and knowledge is growing in you. That's cognitive consciousness. Existential consciousness is what moves on life after life like that. Okay? So it's just the two big categories of terms. So when we speak of cognitive consciousness, we are talking about the mental process underlying our six sense faculties. How our six senses, eye, ear, nose, tongue, body, mind, function. Okay? And especially consciousness. Eye, ear, nose, tongue, body by themselves, they cannot work. The mind is always behind them. Okay? But these five senses decide what the objects are. The mind is like the one that records all this. Okay, and of course there is name and form. Name and form is this interaction of mind, object, mind and object. Okay, this one way of putting it. So on this cognitive level, we can speak of as being conscious or pre-conscious, if you like. Cognitive consciousness is either conscious or pre-conscious. Okay, the two aspects. So notice here there are lots of overlapping of terms. So the best way is just to listen and what is the teacher talking, and then from there you can like sort out the contextual meaning of those terms. All right. Okay, so that is cognitive consciousness. It's got to do with the mental process going on now. And then we have existential consciousness. This is our living consciousness, if you like, and it is fueled by or centers on craving and clinging. Craving pushes us on, and clinging is where you think you have got what you want and you hold on to it, okay? And it fuels it fits whatever you like or want to do, right? So it helps each other, okay? And we also call this rebirth consciousness because it brings new life to us, okay? The body dies, but the mind continues. The mind doesn't die, okay? This is the difference between the materialists. These materialists are people who just say that, oh, your consciousness, your mind, your body are the same thing. If the body dies, the mind also dies. But the Buddha says, no, the mind goes on, okay? So this is the mind that goes on, the rebirth consciousness. Patisandhicitta or Gandhabba. So you can use two terms. Patisandhicitta means rebirth consciousness, quite a technical term. Gandhabba is more of a figurative term, a being to be born, okay? And this rebirth consciousness is conditioned by ignorance and formations, right? Out of ignorance, we create karma. So you notice ignorance, formations, they're also in the first stages of dependent arising. And it's also connected with the First Noble Truth. Of course, in the case of the First Noble Truth, the stress is more on craving. Okay? But craving and ignorance, they kind of go together. They're the deadly duo, the terrible twins, okay? Ignorance and craving. And we can also, you'll find the essential consciousness has two aspects, the subconscious and the latent tendencies. All right, so this is, in a sense, this is what is, or what are reborn, if you like. For convenience, we can call them karmic genes. Because I was thinking about this, I said, okay, let's look at plants, okay? We know, we can see plants, they die and then the seeds grow, it's so clear in front of us. For humans, it's a little bit more tricky. How do we know we are reborn? So it is something the Buddha teaches us, but we can also see this in nature by analogy. You see plants in a sense are less developed than humans, from the human point of view, that is. But when plants die, notice that the seeds grow again and you get the same plants. So if this can happen to plants, naturally it can happen to humans too, right? We have seeds, we have eggs, and we are reborn through that, okay? So what is reborn? For convenience, we can call them karmic genes, or simply karma. So this, again, a bit of overview. You need to digest all this over time. So now the thing is, when we talk about consciousness and the mind, it's so easy to, put in what we have learned before, even our desires, our wishes, where we kind of project all these things onto all these ideas. And this happens even with the monks in the Buddha's time. They kind of had the wrong idea about all this consciousness. They thought this consciousness is permanent, that it doesn't change, and so on. So we should know that the physical component of the body, first of all, is called Rūpa, okay? But in the commentaries, they also use the word Kaya, Sarira. Kaya, Sarira are very clearly physical aspects of the body. Now, Sarira also applies to a dead body, right? So from Sarira, you get all these, the relics of the dead body, the remains that are left over, and they're collected and then, kind of stored in the stupa or in a jar and shown as fact for some people. So the early term is simply Rūpa, which refers to form, is the body, okay? And so you can see the word Kaya for body has two important senses, right? So now we're using this commentary term. Of course, this word Kaya also is found in the suttas, right? Simply our body, right? You can think in English in this case. Just think of the body is the locus or basis, in Pali, thana. You can also translate tanah as ground, just like in Malay, tanah. No? In fact, you went into Malay, it's the word tanah, meaning ground. Of citta. Okay, so this is found in the Patisambhida Magga, page 1 to 4. This is the basis for the mind that we can train, okay, or the mind in general. So here, the mind is the locus of other mental factors like vedanā. Notice vedanā, feeling, perception. Okay, these are all parts, functioning parts of the citta of the mind, and we can train ourselves to deal with this. We often speak of the conscious body, saviññāṇaka kaya, made up of psychophysical factors, made up of mind and body. And we can categorize this into the 5 aggregates, which we are studying right now, as form, feeling, perception, formation, consciousness. However, we come to this interesting question: the mind is not located anywhere. This is one of the issues that troubled the early Buddhist Abhidhamma people. The Buddha speaks of the 5 senses. The eye functions in the eye sees. Okay, so seeing the base is the eye, hearing the base is the ear, smelling the base is the nose, feeling the base is the body, the touch rather, yeah? And then taste, of course, the base is the tongue. So the question now is, the Buddha didn't mention anything about the mind, so where is the mind located? Nowhere in the sutta did the Buddha ever say where the mind is located. There is a tiny hint of it in one of the Abhidhamma books, probably the Dhammasangani, I think. It's probably the first book of Abhidhamma, if I'm not mistaken. So because of that, the Abhidhamma people in those early centuries, before science, they say, okay, let's locate, for convenience, let's locate the mind in the heart, physically in the heart, hadaya watu, the physical heart, right in the center. So, in fact, this is a very common universal idea, even in the West. So we do not know where they got the idea from. Maybe from Greece, and then I know in India they had this idea too. We talk of the heart of the matter, right? So we often, even in Chinese, the same word for heart and mind, they go together. So you find it's a very natural idea where the pre-scientific society, they think of the mind as located in the heart. But nowhere in the sutta has the Buddha ever mentioned the mind is located in the heart. So that's one thing. It's convenient, but it's not exactly correct. So for following the right way of interpreting all this teaching, they can say the mind is not located in any specific base or organ. Definitely not the brain, by the way. Yeah, again, here you find science say, okay, the mind is located in the brain. Even among the scientists, you have these 2 groups. One say brain, one say no brain, okay? But in Buddhism, definitely we say, no, it's not located in the brain. It's not located anywhere. It pervades our whole being. Eye, ear, nose, tongue, body, mind, they all work together to create this mind. And if we are mentally focused and strong, our mind can extend even beyond our body. This is possible. I don't want to talk too much about this, but just think about this. And you find it's a very interesting area to think about. Okay, so now let's look a bit more closely at what is consciousness. Consciousness cannot exist by itself. It's a kind of activity. We're conscious of something, right? So you have the 6 consciousnesses. Eye consciousness is conscious of visual objects, light, colors, shapes. And ear consciousness is conscious of sounds, vibrations. And then the nose consciousness, conscious of smells, different kinds of smells. And then body consciousness, conscious of feeling. Feeling in various kinds, physical feeling, emotional feelings. And then, of course, there's the mind. The mind also is conscious of thoughts and ideas. So consciousness is always conscious of something. So here you have this famous parable of the monkey from the Asuttava Sutta 1, S12.61, translated with notes in SD 20.2, where the sutta says, or where the Buddha says in the suttas, but that which is called thought, mind, or consciousness, there you are, three words, mano, citta, viññāṇa, arises as one thing and ceases as another, like night and day. Notice, here the Buddha says arises as one thing and ceases as another thing. So they're not the same thing. We're going to look at this again in a while, okay? This is the language of the mind. Arises as one thing, ceases as another thing. So it's not the same thing. Like night and day flow into each other, right? They continue, but they're not the same thing. Now the Buddha uses the parable, the analogy. Just as a monkey, bhikshus, the monks, bhikshus refers to us as we listen, roaming through the forest and mountainside, takes hold of one branch, letting that go, then grabs another. Of course, he has to let go. And there is this very interesting timing if you watch how these monkeys do it. They hold one branch, they swing, and then they let go of that branch, then they grasp the other branch. Okay? Sometimes they grasp the other branch first, sometimes they kind of, there's a split second in between, and then they grasp the other branch. So there you are, even so, bhikshus. That which is called thought, or mind, or consciousness, arises as one thing, ceases as another, like night and day. Okay, so add the word one, a thing, one thing. Yeah? So if we think of this analogy, see, the analogy makes it very clear. The two branches, this monkey swings from one branch to the next branch. They are different branches, right? So one thought changes to another thought. Think of them as thought moments, if you like. They're not different thoughts, they're just simply different thought moments. They can also be different thoughts, yes, but it can be in the same string or sequence of thoughts, but they are different moments. All right, so we see consciousness changes. Now let us go a little deeper still and ask, how are we conscious? Okay, now we come to this very famous, I like this. Ratna has taken so much trouble and love to prepare these slides for us. The mango tree is a sequence of parables. Okay, there's lots of sweet mangoes here. Burmese mango especially are the sweetest so far what I've experienced. But Indian mangoes are also very good. India is famous for mangoes. There are many mango stories in the Jataka. So you can see one mango has dropped. Okay, so we're going, this is Abhidhamma idea, one of the useful Abhidhamma ideas, explains to us how our consciousness works. Now, right, if you are not paying attention now, let's say if you're stupor, you are half asleep, then your bhavanga has taken over. Okay, this is called life continuum. Bhava means existence, life, anga, factor. So this is that part of you that's always there. Your kind of this rebirth consciousness, you will like. It's there. It's like the current in the wire, you know. If you don't connect the wire, it's still live. We say it's still live, right? Very interesting. But when you connect and there's current, you have a, it becomes light, or it turns the fan and so on. So here, this bhavanga is that current which is lying, kind of like sleeping, and this consciousness is always there. When you are asleep, for example, when you're asleep, your bhavanga is there, it takes over, but your five senses, your mind rests. So there you have this man who's sleeping. So this is the bhavanga. Okay, rebirth, this life continuum. Okay, this is one of the very descriptive translation. Life continuum. It kind of is what goes on. So what happens after that? The mango falls. Okay, there you observe the mangoes fall, and then the man, it grazes, kind of hears the sound. Okay, so this man notice the color different. It's different. He sends something. It's different, but he's kind of going to wake up, and then there you are. The mind adverts itself. The mind kind of directs itself to that sound. He doesn't know it's a mango yet. So he kind of rises as he wakes up a bit. That's stage 3. Now stage 4, notice his leg has come up, he's getting even more ready. He sees, so, oh, it's a mango. Okay? He sees something, maybe he doesn't know exactly it's a mango, but he's going to examine, okay, his eye consciousness sees this mango, whether he knows it or not, it doesn't matter, but he's looking in that direction. And then 5, then he receives the information by taking the mango. Okay, so you can see this color changes a bit, and he investigates. Okay, so now he's kind of more conscious. All right, he investigates. He say, oh, okay, what is this? Okay, it's a mango. Okay, and then he smells it and so on. And see, is it going to be edible? Okay, so that's determining. So notice this Abhidhamma scholars of the ancient times, they're determining all these stages. It's amazing. They are probably good meditators also. And then number 8 is where it's sure, okay, this is ripe and edible, and he eats it and say, wow, this is tasty and so on. So this is called the impulsion stage. These are technical terms. Notice lots of technical terms in Abhidhamma. So in 8, he's experiencing the mango, right?
Yeah.
Now, okay, let's see what happens next. Okay, here you have this boy. Okay, notice it's a different person. Actually, it should be the same person, but here it's very interesting. It just simply shows a different mind, but same continuity. And he said, wow, so this is sweet. Okay, he has eaten it and he says this is sweet, all right? And then after that, having satisfied himself, he goes back to sleep. Okay, that's bhavanga. So these are kind of, in very colorful terms, 10 stages of consciousness or perception, if you like, in this case. So remember this, it's very easy to understand, right? It's roughly 10 stages. You look at it. Now we're going to go into the more technical aspects. Okay, let's look in more detail what each of these stages mean, all right? Okay, here you are. These are the 10 stages again. The 10 words are there. This is from SD 17.8a, section 9. Bhavanga, life continuum, arises, okay? From under the consciousness, it arises because the man wakes up, okay? The time when the man is sleeping at the foot of the mango tree. So the bhavanga is there, he's asleep, okay? Here, the arresting is the arresting moment is the instant of the ripe fruit falling and grazing the man's ear. So the man, he's woken by sound. Now this is very interesting because, you know, when we wake up in the morning, one of the interesting things you can find out when you get up tomorrow morning or later today if you're resting is you can ask yourself, okay, how did I wake up? Is it by a sound, by something touching my foot, or by a dream, right? Or something I feel in my body and so on. So in this case, it's the sound of mango dropping, okay? So that arrests, that kind of like breaks the flow of the bhavanga. He becomes conscious. Everything is the moment of waking due to the sound. Notice Abhidhamma, they go into great detail, okay? The sound and the waking. And then he opens his eyes. Notice from ear, from body to ear to eye. Okay, so you have to like this sequence from the mind to the ear to the eye, and then he stretches his hand out to take the mango. Right, so he's curious, so he's going to take the mango, and then he investigates, squeezing the fruit to see if it is ripe. I wouldn't advise you doing this when you go shopping because the stall keeper is going to scold you. you kind of gently touch it, you can know more or less it's right or not. Okay, so this is the thing about mangoes. You can feel that ripeness. So that is investigating, right? And then we smell it. Okay, there are different ways of determining. Smelling is most common. Smelling the fruit to ensure it is ripe. And sweet, well, if you're used to eating lots of mangoes, you know this is nice and it's also sweet. And then the time of eating the mango. So it's going to eat the mango, just that moment it's going to eat it, it's getting ready. And then actually he's already kind of chewing it, you know. And here the illustration is swallowing the fruit and enjoying the taste. Right? So he knows, oh, this is a good mango, it's from Myanmar, you know, and so on, all right? And then having done that, he goes back to sleep, right? Because, I mean, this is just an analogy how the mind works, this mango analogy, all right? So this is an interesting description in simple language. Now we look at the Abhidhamma diagram. Here, notice how many thought moments are there here? There's 17, okay? So this is the 17 thought moments of the 5-door mind process, or simply mental process, if you like, all right? So the pink colors are still at the bhavanga, okay? They're still not, the man's still sleeping, if you like. So let's look at what's going on now. Okay, so B, the stream of bhavanga, okay? So you notice that there are 3 stars here, asterisks. This, according to Abhidhamma, represents the 3 moments: rising, remaining, and then passing away. Kind of a sine curve, okay? The remaining also is just a moment. Okay? So that there are this sine curve, so imagine a series of sine curves here, all right? Like a heart rate machine, okay? All right? So B is a stream of consciousness, then P is present. You start with number 1 in the present moment, but here the past bhavanga comes in, and then it vibrates, okay? These are Abhidhamma technical terms, okay? It vibrates. In other words, there is this living situation, it occurs in the mind. And then there's the resting bhavanga, which we mentioned earlier, where the mind is aroused or it notes what's going on outside. So now this gray, or I'm not sure what color is it, kind of bluish gray, the 5 doors start working. What here meaning one of the sense doors, okay, any of the sense doors. So we notice just now started with the ear, the man hears the mango dropping, and then he looks for the mango because so the ear, the eyes, in consciousness is working now, and then he uses hand to reach out and take that fruit, right? It's under number 6, right? So notice here is all one moment, you know, of the action, okay? So, but actually we go through it very fast, but when we talk about it, it seems to be slow, okay? Now a couple more minutes, I'll finish with this one, then we have a break. Okay, so I is investigating, okay, investigating, and then determining, okay, is it sweet, not sweet, and so on. Okay, now we come to this very interesting part, which is called impulsion, jhavana. Okay, so here we have a series of mind thoughts, okay? 2, 4, 6, 7, right? So this is what happens when we actually experience it, if you like. Okay, so that's called jhavana. And then you register, say, okay, that was sweet, you know. So the actual experience at that jhavana stage, if you like. And then there's registration, 2 stages, and then back to bhavanga, okay? The stream of bhavanga. So this is the Abhidhamma description, very basic. This is very, very basic Abhidhamma. You want more details, you look at this Abhidhammata Saṅkhāra, one of those Abhidhamma volumes written in the medieval period of Buddhism, centuries after the Buddha. It's been edicted by Bodhi Revata Dhamma and another person, published free in 1999. If you want the book, I have the PDF version. You can get it, or you can get it online if you know where to look. It's called the Manual Compendium of Abhidhamma, Compendium of Abhidhamma, Manual of Abhidhamma, okay? CMA, 1999. So you just say ABHS 1999, you write to us, I will know what to send to you in case you need it. Okay, time for a break.
Okay, thank you, Piya. We take a 5-minute break now. Piya, if you're ready, you can start.
Okay, good. Right, let's continue. You all can hear me clearly, I hope.
Yes.
Okay, good. Now, when we talk about consciousness in early Buddhism, it's also connected with a lot of wrong views which people have. So it's very important to understand the nature of consciousness. And it often is discussed in terms of the problem of identity, okay? It's because of the continuity of consciousness that gives us an idea of me, okay? Because my mind is able to link up. In a sense, you can call it memory, okay? Okay, so, you know, people like John Locke and so on, they've discussed issues like, for example, if someone forget that he is A, you know, and he behaves like B, would the crime they created as A be culpable as B, and so on? So you have this kind of issues, you know. Someone who let's say gets into a, what do you call that, a trance or something, you know. So there's some of these interesting issues. Anyway, so let's look at this identity and consciousness situation. Now, first thing we should know about consciousness, very basic idea, it is impermanent. It is momentary. Our, what we call consciousness, are moments of mental events, momentary stream or flow of consciousness happening here and now, okay? Even as you hear me now and you process what you are hearing, it goes through all those 17 stages and so on, you know, so it's out. That's when we talk about it, of course. When it actually happens, it's very fast, okay? Like lightning, if you like. It's like you take a video of the lightning and then you slow it down and you begin to see the different flow of the electrical energy in the sky, right? So first thing, anyway, when it comes to consciousness, just like the lightning, it is impermanent. And second important thing to know, it is that's how you know we know things, because of change. We make sense of things because there is change. If there's no change, we won't understand anything. And language is just that. If you look at letters, they change, you see. And if you look at the way the Braille alphabet is printed up with all those points, you notice a blind person will run his fingertips across. And because of the change in those position of the dots, he's able to make sense that there are words with different meanings and so on. So we know things through our being conscious, and because of impermanence of the things that are happening around us. And upon dying, this consciousness arrives in a new life. Now that's the problem, you see. It's when some people have a wrong idea and they think it's the same consciousness. Anyway, this is the karmic process over many lives. Okay. So we should not mistake, do not mistake this continuity for personal identity. It is continuity, but not identity. There is no self. All right. So one simple way of explaining no self is it is continuity, not identity. This is one of the most difficult ideas in early Buddhism. I'm going to use some very interesting scientific devices and experiments, if you like, to show you later on how to think this out. So the fifth point to note here is that viññāṇa, consciousness, works with our body, keeping us alive. So we have the term sa viññāṇaka kaya. Okay, sa means with, viññāṇa, body. Ka is that makes it an adjective, all right? Okay, so next question we ask is, what is it that is reborn then, right? Of course, it's consciousness, all right? But it's just a word. It doesn't refer to the same consciousness. All right? We use terms like personality, attabhava, in the commentaries especially, sometimes even in the suttas, attabhava, personality, all right? But here, atta in the sutta doesn't mean soul. It just simply means there's this idea of self. It's just like when I talk to you, I say I, me, mine. It's just a way of talking, but it doesn't mean there is an unchanging self. People have self-identity. Yeah, we do have a sense of identity, yes, because of our memory, but we should not turn it into a view. Then you have issues, okay? You have problems. In other words, there's no abiding entity. There's nothing fixed, no essence, nothing unchanging behind this consciousness that we are, okay? So in early Buddhism, there's no such thing as any abiding essence, any soul, any eternal self, no such thing. Everything changes. Whatever exists can only exist in change and impermanence. Now I'm going to use a very famous device to show you what's going on, okay? Okay, here you are. You've seen this before, I'm sure. It's called Newton's Cradle, all right? Now let's look closer at this interesting device. There are lots of scientific ways of seeing Buddhism now. So here we are, and I'm going to press the button. I'm going to see, okay, there you are. This man is going to take one ball, and one ball flings off the other side, just like that. Just look at it, okay? Yeah, all right. Now he's going to take two balls, and then two flies off the other side. So this is like karma working, you see? But of course, it's Newton's demonstrating his law of cause and effect, but it also applies to karma. Okay, now it takes three balls and then three applies on the other side. So when you think in terms of karma, you do bad, there's bad fruit. You do good, there's good fruit. And it takes four now, okay? And four balls will fly off the other side. But he can't take more than that. It won't work, okay? So there you are. And this is not the end of the experiment. There's something else, okay? This is something more interesting. Okay, there you are, you see? It takes two at each end, and these two will fly off also. To me, this is a very interesting diagram that can be used to explain group karma, if you like. People creating karma in the group, so you still have that effect, okay? And notice the three balls in the middle are not affected. And here again, it takes two from each side, and then the two flies off in the opposite direction. So there's some kind of energy flowing through them, but you can't see it. It's not something substantial, all right? Okay, so that's one. So we can ask the question, what is reborn, okay? And from that kind of diagram, you can say, yeah, it's the same energy and yet it's different because it moves on to another ball. So in early Buddhist psychology, they use the term nacha so. It simply means not so in English, nacha so. Nacha anyo, not other. Not so, not other. Not this, not other. In idiomatic English, neither the same, nor not the same, or neither the same nor different. Wow, how do we think of that, right? Because according to Aristotelian logic, is either yes or no, good or bad, black or white, you know. But in the Indian, it's not really logic here. It's rather truth statements. You can say something is not, right? So something is white, something is black, okay? So if it is not, it's not, if it's white and it's not white, then it's black, for example. And then it can be both, black and white, like in a black and white movie, for example, right? And then it's neither black nor white. Of course, in this case, there's a third idea. It's red, for example, but it's just a concept. Red is neither black nor white. But you can also say red is neither brown nor blue, for example. So, but it's not fixed. This idea of not fixed is very important, okay? Now in the Mahatanasankaya Sutta M38, there is this monk, Sati, fisherman's son. He had this wrong view of consciousness. He thought that when all the other four aggregates, that is form, feeling, perception, formations, right? They cease here, now, there. Okay, so those four are impermanent, yes. But then it says he thinks there is this same consciousness, viññāṇa, which runs on from this world to the next world. Notice there's an X here, a red X, meaning this is wrong view. Okay, just to be sure you don't follow these wrong views. So the four aggregates change, but consciousness doesn't change. It moves on to the next life. And he concludes that consciousness arises without any conditions. It just moves on like that. Okay, and this is the wrong view, and he was told this is wrong, you know, but he refuses to accept this. So the right view is that it is not the same consciousness that moves on from life after life. And we also cannot say that it is a different consciousness, all right? Yet the reborn consciousness is not totally a different one. It cannot be the same, because if it's the same, then we're in trouble. We won't change. You know, we'll always be this bad guy, or we're always this good guy, so we don't have to do anything. Right? It's not like that. It's neither the same nor different. Again, remember Newton's cradle, all those the balls flying up and down, you know, as you knock them. Neither same nor different. So if we say it's the same consciousness, then we fall into the idea of what's wrong view of what's called eternalism. Those who believe in, you know, the God idea, that the soul doesn't die, and then the body dies, but the soul doesn't die, and then it will go to heaven or go to hell. That's based on eternalism. And then there are the materialists who say body and mind are the same, body and soul are the same, body dies, the soul dies. That's annihilationism, ucheda ditti. The first one is sasata ditti, second one is ucheda ditti, different consciousness, okay? And again, these two are extreme views. This mentioned in the first discourse, the Dhammacakkappavattana Sutta. They are to be avoided. The middle way is conditionality. So here we have this famous candle parable. If you look at this candle, then ask yourself, is anything transferred from the lit candle to the unlit candle? Yeah, of course, inside you say energy is transferred, right? The heat works up the atoms, molecules in the wax, and then it becomes gas, and then it bursts into flames, okay? So there is this change, but nothing really is transferred. And we have another interesting image to see here. Can we light a candle without touching it, all right? So here you are, this person lighting a candle, notice, and then what is transferred, okay? It's very interesting. Okay, the candle is blown out, and notice how it is lit up. The candle doesn't touch the wick. In other words, there's a flow of gas. Of course, today we know there's this trail of gas, all right? So in fact, the Buddha did mention something interesting in this connection, like that trail of gas. It says after rebirth, after someone dies, some beings are not reborn immediately, and they're pushed on like that trail of gas. And what is it that pushes them on? It's craving, all right? So what the suttas, the word the sutta used for the arhat when he's awakened is that the consciousness is unestablished, apatita, okay? So in the Aggivaccaggotta Sutta, M72, the Buddha says, the sutta is about this. Aggivaccaggotta asks the Buddha, where does the freed mind, or the vimutta citta, the arhat's consciousness, arise after death? Where does the arhat's consciousness go? So the Buddha replies and says, to say the word arise is wrong. It does not apply here. It cannot be used here. You cannot say it arise. You cannot say it does not arise. Okay. You cannot say both arise and not arise. And you cannot say neither. there's no way of talking about it because it doesn't have any of these characteristics, right? I mean, you put out a fire and then you start it again, you know, it's possible, but not this consciousness. You cannot talk about it anymore. It's like a flame that has gone out, okay? So here the Buddha, there's probably a fire burning in front of them. So the Buddha puts out the fire, and then the Buddha used this analogy. Now, what do you think, Vajja? Suppose there were a fire burning before you. Will you know it? Would you know if the fire is burning? Just to make sure that you're on the same wavelength. And of course, Vajja Gota says, Master Gotama, if there were a fire burning before me, I would know it, okay? Now suppose, Vajja, someone were to ask you, this fire that is burning before you, depending on what does it burn, what is your answer? Master Gotama being asked, thus I would ask the fire, I would answer, the fire is burning before me, burns depending on grass and wood. And there are many different materials, right? So this refers to different realms that we are born into, the kind of mind that we have, right? So this is the kind of karma that keeps us going. Now suppose, Vajja, this fire before you were to go out, okay, this is the important part, the fire were to go out, would you know it, okay? And of course, Vajja says, Master Gotama, if the fire before me were to go out, I would know it, yeah? So here the Buddha continues, when this fire that has gone out, asked the Buddha, when this fire went out, in which direction has it gone? So here the Buddha is making just a statement to help Vajjagota, because this statement itself is not correct, okay? Where did the fire go, okay? East, west, north, south? Of course, Vajja is an intelligent man. And it says, it does not apply, right? It says, we can't talk of this with the fire, you know? The fire has gone out, you can't say it's gone in any direction. Maybe you can say the fuel is normal, perhaps, you know? Or maybe we threw water over it, right? The fire burnt depending on its fuel, grass, wood, etc. This is our past karma. When the fuel is used up or does not receive any more fuel, it is said to be quenched. Okay, this your nibbutta actually means quench. Fire is quenched with water, right? So this word nibbutta is used on in a spiritual way, in a Dhamma way, to mean attain nirvana. But this is M72. You can look up at SD 6.15, right? So now let's look a little further. When consciousness finally ends, what happens? So here the Buddha declares, the Buddha explains further in the Upaya Sutta, S22.53, the Buddha declares, when consciousness is unestablished, in the case of the arhat's consciousness, not coming to growth, non-generative, there's no more becoming anew, no more rebirth. It is free from suffering, free from rebirth. When it no more generates volitional formation, saṅkhāra, or karma, if you like, it does not arise again, there's no more rebirth. So that's the meaning here, okay? Only non-arhats have their consciousness established. Established means they find a footing in some new realm, and then, or a human realm again, and then you're reborn. That means the consciousness finds a new womb, this new being, it becomes a new being itself. So it's established itself. That's a way of talking, right? So now the Buddha talks about this, the two arahats here, the Godika and Wakali, right? After they died, Mara tried to fly. He flew in the sky, looked all directions where to find their consciousnesses, and Mara could not find it. Mara looked for the rebirth consciousness of the dead arahats, dead arahat monks, Godika and Wakali. So the Buddha described this Mara as he appeared as a mass of smoke and darkness, moving to the east, to the west, to the north, to the south, upwards and downwards, and the direction between us, flying around looking. So this is a kind of a mythical explanation of Mara looking. Where has consciousness gone? That bhikshu is Mara, the evil one, seeking the consciousness of the monk, Gudika, or Vakali, wondering, where now has his consciousness established itself or is reborn? Okay, looks like the E also is at nirvana here. Okay, in this case, I think reborn would be more right. We've got to put back the E here. Okay, where is it reborn? Okay, but with consciousness unestablished, the arhat Gudika and the arhat Vakali has attained nirvana. It's not attained. It's not established anywhere else. Okay. So now sometimes you get a problem in translation, and that's where people started having wrong ideas. Sometimes instead of translating as unestablished, they translate as unsupported consciousness. So the problem here is a translation. Once we say unsupported consciousness, it creates a bit of problem here. So the same two suttas, instead of translating as unsupported consciousness, we just simply should read it as unestablished consciousness. Okay, because if we think of the idea of unsupported, that means there is something supported, something supporting exists, right? So we don't normally, we should not say unsupported consciousness for apatitita. No? It is because the unsupported suggests that there's some kind of consciousness that still remains behind. Okay, and this is a wrong view. It would be an eternalist view, sasasatiti, that something remains behind, something eternal. So this error may arise if we translate apatitita as unsupported. It should be better translated as unestablished in this case. So remember, unestablished. The consciousness is unestablished. It doesn't re-arise, no more rebirth. No consciousness is established or recurs. It does not find any more footing or basis for rebirth, for it. And in other words, all the five aggregates have ceased to exist. It's totally gone. The aggregates have attained nirvana, so to speak. So it's not right to say that the arhat has ceased to exist. This would be annihilationist also, right? So neither exists nor not exists. We don't say there's nothing more to talk about him. The words that our language don't apply anymore. It's nirvana. Because once you can talk about it, it's going to create problems. The famous philosopher Wittgenstein says that of those things that we cannot talk about, it's best for us to be silent, right? So this is the famous silence of the Buddha when it comes to awakening to arahathood. So there you are. We finally come to this very profound ending. Reflect on this, the nature of consciousness. So when someone is awakened, enlightened, consciousness does not arise anymore. We cannot talk about it anymore. And so we end this talk, okay? All right, let's go on to question time.
Yeah, thank you very much for your inspiring, interesting presentation and also useful. Now we have our Q&A session. Can you please stop sharing your screen? Okay, thank you. All right. We have one question from the chat box. Let me get a question. Okay, from Arthur. Regarding latent tendencies, what are reborn? That is karmic genes.
Yeah.
If good qualities are also reborn, are these also called anusaya?
Yeah, this is a very important question. Thank you for asking, Arthur. Okay, anusaya is a negative term. It refers to only those negative qualities because the Buddha wants to highlight those things that keep us going, keep us wanting to be reborn. Now, this is interesting because the Buddha uses the old term punya. Okay, punya is the belief that you do good deeds, you get good karma, and you're reborn with blessings. You have better rebirths. You're reborn as deva. So this is punya. Okay, good karma keeps you connected with this world. You're bonded to this world, so you're reborn. And once you're reborn, you also do bad things again, so you're caught in the cycle. So punya is normally used in that sense because the Buddha brought in this word so that people understand it, and then from there the Buddha introduced them to the term kusala, kusala karma. Kusala means skillful, wholesome. So kusala karma is where you don't see it as good and bad karma. Yeah, you do good, keeping the precepts is good, but you see it more as the precepts are there to provide a calm mind. And with a calm mind, you can let go of even good and bad altogether, and you're no more caught in the cycle of karma. Right? That's how the world works on karma. So kusala has that freeing effect from both good and evil, right? Kusala is the Buddhist idea. So this anusaya belongs to this aspect which brings rebirth, right? Yes, I would say good and good also is reborn. So it is as if the idea of anusaya implies, okay, good also is kind of reborn, but there's no problem there. So the Buddha doesn't want to highlight that. He highlights the negative parts, just like the precepts. The 5 precepts are highlighted, okay, and then from there you have the positive qualities. So they are reborn, but the Buddha deals with those qualities under what are called the 10 causes of good karma. Kusala Kamapata, okay? Whereas anusaya are very powerful forces that keeps us reborn again and again. It is as if you can argue that those good karma actually gives us the good birth, but it's the bad karma that keeps us being reborn. That's one way of putting it. But then they interact with each other, good and bad. So this is one of those very interesting anomalies, if you like, in early Buddhism, the way the Buddha teaches good and bad. So he uses anusaya only to refer to those negative qualities that keep us reborn. All right, so you have to think about this. So notice when you talk about psychology, there's never a cut and dry, easy technical way of looking at it, because mental states are very tricky. So you've got to see them in context and in what they call that relativity. They relate to one another. I hope the question is not, the answer is not too confusing. So just reflect on it, please. Okay.
Yeah. So can we say that kusala is the wholesome?
Yeah, kusala is wholesome, yes. Wholesome aspect. Also, sometimes translated as good. Okay. We should cultivate the wholesome aspect. Okay. So first, you cultivate, of course, the punya. When you go into society, basically you're doing punya. When you do meritorious work in Thailand, they say tambun, bun is punya, you know. Whereas kusala is when you meditate, okay? When you meditate, normally we use the word kusala. Okay.
Okay, thank you. Atta put up his hand. Atta, please unmute yourself.
Oh, I'm sorry. I think Long put up his hand. I didn't have my hand
Oh,
up
okay.
yet.
I saw you wave your hand.
Oh, I was like saying yes to. I'll have the question after Long.
All right, sure. Okay, Long, go ahead. Yeah.
Oh, so I was questioning about
Yeah.
latent tendency. So last time I was listening to your other videos. So latent tendency, is it something like it's very difficult for us to, I guess, not to say remove, but to reduce, I guess?
Yeah, reduce will be easier than remove, because you don't
Yeah,
even know. We don't even know it's there. We don't even know they are there. Okay.
They're there. Okay. Then the other thing is, you let me know. You don't need to answer, but the question is about chitta. My friend always tell me chitta is kind of like a very, he simplifies it, kind of like a Buddha nature.
Oh.
This is the purest thing, you know. Then because we got all those delusion and whatever,
Okay.
so that's why we practice slowly. Then we got the chitta. If this is the right class to explain, if you don't mind.
Sure. All right. When we talk about mano, chitta, viññāṇa, becomes very tricky, and the different schools of Buddhism will talk differently. And in a sense, you have to follow their language. It's like you have the Apple system, you have the, MS Word system, So I mean, of course, they can talk to each other nowadays. It's very convenient, but the language is still different. So chitta is trainable. We wouldn't say chitta is a pure mind. We say chitta is trainable. We can train chitta, but mano is that deep, dark, mental energy, all this there. So yeah, it's got to do with anusaya, latent tendency. Go back to that eclipse diagram. You can see the 3 levels, right? At the top, you have the conscious. The iceberg diagram is here easy actually. The top is the conscious, where we show the public, right? We act through our eye, nose, tongue, body, right? Then below that is the pre-conscious. We don't tell people exactly how we think. Like someone say, "How are you?" We say, "Oh, I'm okay. Actually, you're quite sick with a headache." You still say, "I'm okay." Of course, it's quite fair. If you start saying, "Oh, I give a list of a litany of suffering," people won't ask you, won't meet you anymore. So you normally say, "I'm okay," and it's not lying. It's just a conventional language. What you're saying is, "I'm able to talk to you, and it's not trouble." But the reality is, you're telling yourself, "Let me not say too much. I'm going to make this person unhappy, or this person I know he's of this character. So these are certain things you not mention." So your subconscious, your pre-conscious rather, tells you to be careful what to say, what not to say, or even to pretend in front of the boss, I better be like this, like that. So this is what greed, hate, delusion is, guiding you along, right? And then greed, hate, delusion on a deeper level has even more dark and powerful energy. So greed on a deeper level becomes lust. Hatred on a deeper level is aversion. Delusion on a deeper level is ignorance. So those are the anusaya. But if you study the anusaya, the latent tendencies, there are as many as up to 7 or more of them. So there is a whole article I wrote on anusaya. In case you want to read it, you just inform us. So anusayas are the negative, unconscious tendencies. You don't even know they are there. Someone very kind and peaceful suddenly will burst into some very negative violence, and we're shocked by it because it's there in the latent tendencies, right? So that is why we need, we keep the precepts to deal with the pre-conscious, to make sure that we respond positively. We do meditation to go deeper and slowly reduce the anusaya, the latent tendencies. And then when you attain wisdom and arhathood, then you remove the anusaya totally. That only occurs during full awakening, arhathood, okay, or Buddhahood, if you like. Yeah, the same thing in this case.
Okay. So my question, so it'll be, so even when we know that we're angry, or we know that we're a little bit greedy, all these things, these are actually not the deeper thing, the deeper stuff that you're saying, like sometimes we don't even know.
I wouldn't say it's the deepest thing, but definitely those are excellent ways of training yourself, because you see them as they are, and that is experience of reality. That's very important, and that is going to guide you in reducing the latent tendencies.
Okay, because I guess the question is like, sometimes when I do certain things and I'm like, oh, this is greedy, but like, but I like to protect myself. Yeah, this is still greedy, So to me, this is like, okay, I can see that in the surface, but you were saying like, okay, deep inside, there are some things that we don't even know, and then it just pop out.
Yeah. Well, put it this way. In the real situation, you won't have the time to analyze that way. So you act according to your feeling, right? So it's okay. You do that, all right? Rightly, wrongly, you do that. It's okay. Because you'll be guided by what you have learned before. And then there is something called pacavekkhana in Pali. Pacavekkhana, you review, okay? Very important. So in the quiet moments, You review, say, okay, what did I do today? I got angry, or I did something, or I took this. Is it correct? And then you start analyzing. Then later you plan, you tell yourself, okay, this is what I should have done, and you correct yourself. That's what the Nambalatika Rahulovada Sutta teaches us. The Buddha says, you review your actions, right? So one is review your action, one is when you're doing it, and the other one is before you do it. So 3 ways of dealing with your actions. So in this case, you review the action, and that helps you to further refine your actions to be positive actions, to be wholesome actions. All right?
Okay, thank you. Next we have Arthur. Arthur, please unmute yourself.
Yeah, I have kind of a tricky question. I'm almost hesitant to ask it, but because the subject is so relevant,
all right.
And I think I talked to you about this before, but I just want to clarify. If I just give a little background. So even in Burmese Buddhism, I came across this suggestion, and certainly in Thai Buddhism, that an arhat, something can remain after death, or something can communicate after death. There in Thai, there's some talk about this among certain monks. And I even came across a monk who mentioned this directly, and I was very unhappy when he mentioned it. And so part of I mean, there's so many things to talk about. My desire here is to maintain the right view,
right?
But also I want to be careful, because I'm ignorant. I'm not that advanced in the Dharma. And if I think, oh, this monk must be wrong, but you know, maybe I create bad karma because I judge that monk, right? But I want to say, if anyone says that something of an arhat remains, I want to believe they must be wrong, because everything I've seen in the Buddha's teaching it doesn't support that.
Yes. No, you're right. You're right. Yeah.
Yeah. So it scares me, this idea, you know, and if a senior monk or you know, he seems like an advanced meditator, his students seem like advanced meditators, it scares me, that idea.
Well, you have this wonderful quality where you respect the Dhamma, so you're very careful when you want to say something. I mean, this is a good thing to show how you're careful not to hurt people when you say something, and also you respect the idea of renunciation. Okay, the only problem here is when you say the monk is wrong. Now, it's a matter of language here. Whereas if you revise that language, you say, this idea is wrong, then I think you'll feel better. So you don't have to say the monk is wrong. I mean, that itself is a wrong idea anyway, because you don't know the whole monk. We have this is the problem of what's called E-language, E-prime language. It's one of those forgotten wonderful ideas, where this group of people who are linguists, they say, you know, we tend to talk of he is this, he is that. When we use this verbs to be, wow, we really cancel people out. We say A is bad. That means his whole life from day one until now he's bad, which is not true, you see, right? We have to revise this. Don't use is, are, was, were. Don't be careful when you're using all these verbs to be. So instead you should say, oh, this person came late, and that is bad, or coming late is bad, or taking something not given is bad. So once you reduce it to actions rather than to the whole state, you're safer. So you have a very interesting Buddhist idea there, all right? So we can't say the world is bad. Wow, that's quite a fantastic statement. We have to say, okay, what are you talking about? What is it that you see as bad? Okay, so you have to define what is good, what is bad. So when we say this idea is wrong, I think you feel better that way. And I think that in a way solves the situation too, right? So yeah, I would say it's all right to not to accept this idea, because you say, I can't accept this because there's no sutta foundation for this. It's just against what the Buddha has taught. So the idea is not acceptable to me. I'm not sure it's right or wrong, but it's not acceptable to me with my present understanding of the Dhamma. And that's fine. I often do that. And at my level, of course, at my age also, time's running out. So I don't mind telling people, this is wrong. I can't accept this. Okay? And that saves time. We got to have much of it left. Okay. So yes, you become more confident as you grow older. In a sense, you feel more urgent also to say what your mind thinks, yeah, and feel. So I'm happy that you have this very careful attitude towards the Dhamma and towards people also. That's wonderful. Okay, it's a matter of the right use of language in this case. All right. Okay, let's go on.
Okay, thank you. Next, Sister Gixi, unmute yourself, please.
Yes.
Yeah, thank you, Brother Piya and Sister. Yeah, I've always find it very interesting that can learn something new. Today I learned about the monkey parable. That's quite interesting, but I have to reflect on it. But I just want to just share a reflection because there was this discussion about anusaya and punya. I was just curious because to have the liberation of mind, we want to uproot the anusaya, right? Latent tendencies for arhat. That the latent tendencies or the anusayas are uprooted.
Yeah.
So I mean the reason why the all Buddhas emphasize as the first step is to avoid evil, and then only you do good and purify the mind. Would that because if you continue to do evil, you would actually have the consequences.
Yes.
And that would not be able to be uprooted because you continuing be accumulating that. So the first step is to stop all evil.
Yeah.
So that you won't have cumulative tendencies or that akusala, right?
Correct.
I mean, that would make sense that why you emphasize on getting rid of the negative before you practice good and then you purify the mind.
Okay, very good. Yeah, I guess he's talking about the famous statement in the Dhammapada. I forgot the number, is it 187 or something? Sabba papasa karananga.
I think it's 183, I think.
183.
If I'm not mistaken.
Yeah. Okay, so avoid evil, do good, purify the mind. This is the teachings of all. This is the teaching of all the Buddhas, right? Now, this three lines are very important. They kind of summarize Buddhist practice. Not to do any evil, you can say in practical terms, refers to the sila training in moral virtue, not to do any evil. Don't break the precepts, depending on whether you're a layman or a monk. As a monk, you keep the vinaya. And then do good, kusalasa upasampada, refers to cultivating the mind. There you notice the word kusala is used there. It refers to meditation. Okay. So here you see the grounding is moral virtue, body and speech are refined, and so that it doesn't distract us in meditation. It becomes the basis for concentration. That is kusala, upasampada, okay? So cultivation of the mind, meditation, second training. And then wisdom, that's the third one, the third training. So there you see the three trainings nicely summarized, okay, in that verse. Okay, any more questions?
There's no more question. Anyone else has question?
Okay, we have about 6 minutes according to my clock. And this is our final last class of the year. We still this class overflows into the new year. We're making it flexible because this is such an important and interesting topic. Okay.
Piya Tan, I have one question. By cultivating, we have also to be careful not to the unarisen akusala, preventing them from arising.
True.
Guarding them not to that they don't arise.
Yes.
To guide them, yeah?
Very true, yeah.
Okay.
So in other words, when we, I think what the right effect here mentions is, if something is, if bad which is unarisen, we keep it that way. So that itself, I call it the action of non-action, right? We have not smoked before, we keep it that way, you know? So, and then the good which is not arisen, like we have never meditated before, we make an effort to meditate, okay? So that's the meaning. So unarisen good, we make it arise. All right, so they go like that. They come in pairs and you get 4 right efforts. Okay, yes. Anything else? The year is fast ending. It's amazing. Huh? I hope 2022 will be a good year. I always believe coming year is a good year. I was not right last year, unfortunately, with COVID and so on. But even then, the good thing is here we are, you know, so many wonderful people from all over the world that gathered together here in the Dhamma. That's really wonderful. Okay, any other questions?
You have any general question, you also can ask.
Yes.
Even if it's not related to our talk today. Anything regarding your practice or anything you have in mind? Utter resistance again.
Yes, sure.
Utter resistance.
One more question, and I mean this respectfully. I appreciate that you included some Abhidhamma in this lecture.
Yeah.
In the past, I've noticed you've been kind of careful with Abhidhamma because it's, you know, it can be too technical, too conceptual, maybe not canonical. And I'm curious, have you sort of expanded your view, or is this what you always felt and just changed?
My mind is still the same about Abhidhamma. It's just that I've known this diagrams for a long time, even before when I was still a monk, those decades, you know, like what, 30, 40 years ago. It's just that this is the right occasion. I said, wow, I must share this with the people to show them that this is how you learn Abhidhamma if you want to. Make sure that it helps you understand the Dhamma. If it does that, then that's fine. But once you go into great detail, because I see people suddenly change, they walk around like arhats, you know, and they behave very differently, and they don't talk to their friends anymore. And that terrifies me. I mean, that's not the way Dhamma is meant to be. It has aroused arrogance in you, and that's definitely not good. And I still hold that view. I still feel you got to be careful for studying Abhidhamma. Make sure you're really good in Dhamma first before you go into Abhidhamma. If you don't, I can almost guarantee you're going to have a lot of arrogance coming up in you, and my goodness, that's not going to be good. And I'm very serious about this. All right, so don't get caught in that trap. Okay, so it's going to build up mana. Okay, but if you have very strong grounding in the Dhamma and you understand non-self especially, and then you look at the Abhidhamma and say, okay, wow, this is interesting. It explains all these things very nicely. And then you use it to inspire joy and clarity in the audience. Yes, that is fine. You can use that. Okay. So go ahead, read this compendium of Abhidhamma, Abhidhamma saṅkhāra, which can be helpful in parts because you explain certain things with some interesting technical detail. But always go back to the suttas. Never get lost in the Abhidhamma. Okay, it's going to prevent you from awakening for ages to come. Be very careful. All right.
All right, thank you.
One more question, Brother Piya.
Yes, go ahead.
Wait, we take Diane first. Can
okay, yes.
Her hand. We have Diane first.
Yeah. Louder, please. Yeah.
Louder.
Really simple, basic question. But how would you recommend cultivating wisdom? I mean, what are the practical things you can do to go about this?
Oh, wonderful question. I love this question. The first thing is we must recognize that we don't know something. All right? I always remind myself that I look at the sutta and say, oh, I don't know what this means, or I don't understand what this person just said, or what this teacher just said. So I always make a note, which sutta. First of all, you got to know how to identify the sutta. That troubled me long ago. People say, that sutta. I say, what sutta? And they do not know what it is. We couldn't identify it. That is why you find in this, our sutta discovery, I always put the sutta number, and then towards the end, I put the number again. I want to make sure that we don't lose track of the number and we can locate the sutta. You can't locate it, you don't know what it is. So that's the first thing. Recognize the fact that you need to know, that you lack that understanding. And then begin somewhere that you know, okay? Go on to something that you know, something that you understand. Build it up, okay? So you read a sutta, just read through and you see which parts are interesting to you. The parts you don't understand don't matter at this point, because suttas are meant for lifelong reading. So those parts that you like, highlight it and say, okay, wow, I like this part, okay, where the Buddha says, the mind is impermanent, and then there are other deeper things, and then slowly you expand your understanding. You begin to see how the lines connect, how the passages connect, how the suttas connect. So that's the second stage of learning, right? You begin with something that you understand. So you have to know how to locate the suttas, right? Then there are good translations, there are bad translations. You choose your translations. Ajahn Sujato tries to present the suttas in an easy reading modern English, where you're not troubled by Pali terms and so on. And that's a good start, okay? But you can't remain there, because you remain there, you have this very general idea, you don't really know in the end what exactly the Buddha is talking about. That should lead you to ask yourself, what exactly is the Buddha say here? And then you go into other more difficult translation like Sutta Discovery, where we have lots of notes. No translation is perfect, right? Because in the end, it is better to know the Pali if you can. Okay, that's the higher level. If you know Pali, that helps you a lot to go deeper. But that of course is for the teacher. So for your level, I would say go back to the suttas, look up where in the sutta did the Buddha say this, so that you're clearer. Say, oh, okay, these are the passages, and then you find there are cross references, there are notes, and in the Sutta Discovery, this is our approach. We ask ourselves, okay, this term, do people understand what it is? And we define it briefly in the footnote, and then we give cross references for more details. So you read the sutta and then you follow the cross references. All these are available online. You want the latest one, contact us. Don't be shy. That's what the Facebook is for. That's what the Telegram is for us to give you quickly through technology, all these translations. So know what you find out what you don't know. Then look up in some basic teachings, basic suttas, or some basic reading. What is it that will clarify what you know? And then look up where in the suttas you understand better. Oh yes, the fourth one is meditation. Do some simple meditation. Then you experience that peace, the joy, and then you find the sutta makes better sense. That's what in the end suttas are about. Well, not exactly in the end. I mean, it leads to meditation. The end, of course, is your own awakening. That is something we wait a lot of time. Right, thank you for the questions. Very
okay. Thank
nice
you.
Yeah.
Yeah. Now we call Sita to ask a question.
Yeah. Okay, Sita. Yes.
Okay. Yeah, there's a basic question about in the Satipatthana. I remember it was during the last month. I wanted to ask this refrain, this repetitive refrain in Satipatthana, inward, externally, internally, and both internally.
Correct. Yeah.
I have a feeling that there is a form of how we slowly start cultivating.
True. You begin.
Process.
Okay, is that your question?
Yeah.
All right.
I was
okay,
not very.
Yeah, very true. Yeah, sometimes people are asking, wow, what does this mean? You know, there is this passage which repeats itself after every instruction.
Exactly.
Yeah, for example, watching the breath, watching feelings, you know, you watch your own feeling, but then you watch it in others, and then in both. Okay.
Internal, external.
Yeah, I have written the notes are there, detailed notes in the SD13. Anyway, basically for yourself, of course, it means you watch this within yourself. When you understand feelings, for example, then you look at people, you can sense through their looks, even you can feel that kind of situation they are in, and that helps you to interact with them. It helps in counseling, all right? So you can sense this. In due course, of course, you can develop mind reading. Your mind becomes more refined, more sharp. You're more sensitive to people. The mind becomes more sensitive to people when you talk to them, okay? And that helps to know other people's situation. Even breathing, from the breathing, you can sense someone is trouble or not. And this comes naturally as your meditation improves. Of course, some are very difficult, like mind reading. That is something else. That's what you have to cultivate much later, when you're very much better, when you have attained stream winning, for example. So the Buddha is giving an open-ended interpretation, possibilities of first knowing yourself, knowing it in others, and then both. In other words, it's kind of back and forth thing, all right? Or more like maybe even in a crowd, perhaps, all right? So that's how it refers to, yeah, in the Satipatthana. Okay,
thank you. Your question also has been answered in the talk called Right Mindfulness. You watch the videos. Is there? Yeah. Okay, now we got Sister Getsil, please.
Yes, yeah.
Unmute yourself.
Yes, Getsil, yeah.
Yeah, Brother Piya, I just want to clarify because it just struck me regarding the monkey parable. Because I think I've heard last time that I think Bhante Akachita said that, you know, the mind can only grasp one object at a time.
Correct. Yeah.
But based on that sutta, it wouldn't seem that it can be linear, like one sense after the other, since they all arrive all at a different time and they go different ways. It's possible that the mind, I mean, you have these five senses where, you know, the convergence of the consciousness and different states, they all arise together or part of
yes.
So it's not linear one after another, it's like all together. That's possible, right? I mean, that would explain, I think subsequently, Bhante also mentioned that, yeah, he used to think that it was linear, but then it's not. I mean, from the practice itself, because we always seem to notice the most dominant one.
Right.
But it happened all at once.
Yeah. Yes, exactly. Yeah.
Based on that sutta.
It happens all at the same time. In fact, imagine yourself, all the six channels, you know, they're moving all at the same time. This wire has got six, I mean, this cable has got 6 wires. So all these 6 mental activities or sense activities are all happening at the same time. But it is where your mind pays attention to. That's what you will experience. Okay, right now you're listening to me, right? And then your body is feeling the temperature. My goodness, there's snow all around. I mean, the clothes that you're wearing now will really make you shiver, right? So your body knows that, but it doesn't matter. And then there's a bit of taste, but negligible. And then there are thoughts that doesn't trouble you because you're quite focused enough to listen and so on. So all these senses are working, but your attention is such that you can focus on one particular event that you choose to, right? So whereas the monkey parable, like all parables, there are limitations. So you have to interpret the parable. The parable is talking about what you direct your mind to at that time. That's one, the hand holds on to something. Okay, the mind directs itself to something, to one thought. That is what that holding one hand and then it stretches out and then let go and then it catches the other one. So the mind can only decide which one of these 6 extremes it takes one thought. So yes, everything is going on at the same time, but the mind pays attention only to one. Okay. Yeah.
I know because I followed a few Abhidharma lessons. Would that also mean, I mean, just for clarification, that's why you have the sense conscious, the 5 sense adverting and the mind adverting. And when they talk about the mental practice, you have the attention that you mentioned, the uniso mani saṅkhāra. So that's linear. That's when the mind pays attention. Is that right? What you were saying?
Once these books, Abhidharma and the teachers start explaining, it often becomes linear. So, but remember, it's always this background, there's this big network of activities going on, but the teacher has taken that one line of event and explained that. It's always like that. It's taken one line. So it appears linear, but it's not. It's not linear. It's always interacts with a lot of other things. But in terms of explaining, we need, one way is take a linear approach in order to understand it. Otherwise, the human mind cannot apprehend what's going on all at one time. I don't know how that can be done. So the teacher will always go to a kind of linear approach. That network at best is a diagram. You look at it, right? Even then you tend to follow line by line first. I suppose this is a matter of explanation. Yeah. Okay.
Okay, we still have 2 more questions in the chat.
Oh, 2 more. All right.
I hope we are not holding
so
too much of your time.
Okay,
All right.
Yeah, we'll go on a little bit here.
Okay, from Brother Patrick.
Yes.
Brother Piya, you will be touching on the 18 mind consciousness element in the future topics.
Well, since you mentioned, there is a sutta called the Chachaka Sutta, where it goes to all the 6 senses, and it's 6 by 6 by 6. Everything is 6. And yeah, we will touch something on I'll find something interesting on the 18 elements, right? Is it 18 elements?
18, yes.
Yeah, 18 elements. Yeah. Maybe even the Dhatu. What do you call it? Dhatu Vibhanga Sutta. So I had that in mind also. Dhatu Vibhanga. Dhatu also about the elements, 18 elements, I think, is included there. We'll see how. So just make a note, okay, Ratna? Thank you for the suggestion. Okay, go on.
Okay, there's one suggestion from Brother Long. He says that when he faces certain problems, he will refer to the suttas.
Okay. Question?
That's all. That's all.
The remark. Oh, wonderful. Yeah. Yes, that definitely is a life guide, and you have to know where to guide, where to look for it. And spiritual friends also help, right? For example, remember our study on the Meghiya Sutta. Spiritual friends are important also. And we can also learn from people who really cause us a lot of trouble, because these are our teachers indirectly. Remember, suffering is the great teacher. Teacher in the sense that because we listen to him, because we watch what's going on, and then we reflect. That's the teacher, the reflection, you see. So you have the sutta outside and the sutta within. So yeah.
Suggestion to Diane. So when I got problem, I go and listen to other teachers. Then I say like, oh, there's something like that. Then I go and text Brother Piya, say like, is there a sutta about this thing? Then I go and read. That's how I
the amazing
build my wisdom.
Yeah, the amazing thing is once you are better at understanding the sutta, usually in retrospect, you find there's something wonderful there that reflects back to something you experience in your life. And then you find when you teach that sutta, it is from your experience. And people really benefit. So that's when to present the sutta from your own experience. This is the benefit of age. Of course, then you have less time to talk. You better start talking more often. Okay. All right. So any more questions, Ratna? Ratna, unmute yourself.
Yes, I need to unmute myself. Okay. Sorry. So that's all for today. Our next 2 classes will be on the 1st of next year and on the 7th of next year. Do look out for the announcement in our Telegram.
Okay.
So no more question, huh? So please turn on your videos. We take a snapshot before we end our class today. Okay.
Okay.
1, 2, 3. Smile. Okay, that's good. Thank you. So we'll end our class today.
Now we have come to the end of the year, and for me, this is an amazing year because we meet globally to study the suttas. And if you have been joining us, even part of this wonderful journey, believe me, it is a wonderful good karma. And it is a good year for us in that sense, mentally, spiritually. Rejoice in this and use this to motivate you, to move you towards greater happiness. In other words, from light to light, as the Buddha says, from brightness to brightness. So remember, we started off by saying Namo Tassa, Three Refuges, 5 precepts, and then we did some meditation and then studied the suttas, asked questions and so on. So you've spent these 2 hours, over 2 hours, as an act of renunciation. This is itself many good blessings if you look at the Mangala Sutta, listening to the Dhamma, discussing Dhamma and so on. So it's a time to do a bit of metta for yourself. May I be well, tell yourself. May I be happy, at peace with myself. May I enjoy good health. May my mind be calm and clear to grow in the Dhamma, to listen to the Dhamma and grow wiser. Also, in this crucial turning point in our lives with the new year coming, send your loving kindness to your loved ones. May they be well, may they be happy. Picture them, think of them, mention their names if you like. Wherever they are, wish them well and happy. Even those you have difficulties with, even enemies, wish them well and happy, that they'll be happy to see you, become friends again in time to come. And of course, our teachers, may they be well and happy too. And finally, to rejoice in gratitude to the three jewels, to the Buddha who has given us all this wonderful wisdom, and to his Dhamma, which we practice, and to the Sangha of noble ones whom we aspire to emulate, to follow. Arahang Samma Sambuddho Bhagava Buddhang Bhagavantang Abhivademi Swakato Bhagavata Dhamma Dhammang Namasam Bhavdang Supatipanno Bhagavato Savaka Sangho Sanghang Namami Bhavdang. Sadhu, sadhu, sadhu. Okay, thank you for attending this wonderful session.
Thank you, everybody.
See you in the new year.